I've got some bad news for you all. Lifespans around the world are soaring, hunger is plummeting, and hey, remember those Millennium Development Goals that the UN put out in the year 2000? We actually blew past the most important one, halving the number of people living in extreme poverty. Oh wait, no, sorry, all of that is actually good news. You know, if you hate poverty and starvation. And not to be overly simplistic here, but the main reason why is capitalism. A bunch of people were given relatively free rein to selfishly make a buck, yada yada yada. Millions of children are now reaching adulthood instead of dying of cholera. But how? Let's take a trip to China, shall we? In the course of a single human lifetime, China has hands down experienced the most dramatic upswing in prosperity and poverty reduction ever seen in history. In the late 1970s, 98% of rural China was below the poverty line. By 2016, it was 4.5%. And everybody, including the country's literal communist rulers, are pretty much in agreement that this all happened because the country adopted the principles of a free market economy. For the first 3 decades of the People's Republic of China, its economy was the opposite of a free market. Wages, prices, the precise number of shoes to be manufactured, even the types of crops to be planted. All of these things were decided by some bureaucrat in Beijing and then dictated down to the masses. If Mao Zedong had a dumb idea that farmers should all abandon their fields in order to make steel and crappy backyard furnaces, then that's what happened. In that particular case, Mao's ideas caused a catastrophic economic collapse, resulting in the largest famine in human history, with around 30 million killed. This all changes starting in 1978. This guy, Deng ushers in a suite of economic reforms: private property, foreign investment, no more price fixing. In the early 1970s, Jingguo here works on a collective farm. He's legally barred from owning anything, and he gets the same food ration regardless of how much work he does. After 1978, he can work his own plot of land, sell what he produces, and if he happens to innovate a better way of doing it, he reaps the benefits. When you do that to several hundred million people, you unleash an unstoppable wave of enterprise that can quickly make cities like Shenzhen go from this in the 1980s to this. But maybe China is just a fluke, right? Since the year 2000, Rwanda saw its national poverty rate drop from 77% to 55%. From 1993 to 2014, Vietnam saw poverty rates drop from 60% to just 14%. In just 8 years between 2011 and 2019, the number of India's poor dropped from 340 million to 78 million. In Singapore, my God! In 1960, 80% of the population technically lived as squatters. Now it's one of the richest countries on earth. That's where they filmed Crazy Rich Asians. The through line in all of these economic miracles is market liberalization. Deregulation, removal of tariffs, openness to foreign investment, abolition of price controls, ease of starting a business, all that stuff Michael Moore hates. South Korea was one of the poorest countries on earth following the end of the Korean War. A liberalized, export-oriented economy later, and we're all using Samsung phones and watching Squid Game while Korea enjoys one of the lowest relative poverty rates in the OECD. Meanwhile, there's a giant chunk of Korea that didn't do any of that market liberalization stuff, and they're so poor they still get hit by famines. Capitalism isn't perfect. It has a bit of a problem with environmental externalities. Although, to capitalism's credit, once countries get rich, one of the first things they do is pay to stop their rivers from catching on fire. And if you don't equip your free market with basic curbs on human exploitation, you will get a Charles Dickens novel. But, hoo boy, if you want to create a giant pile of money really quickly that your population can then use to stop dying before the age of 40, I cannot recommend capitalism more highly.